Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sara Gonzales. Here with today's top stories. Glenn, what was the top story?
I would say that there was something that happened online yesterday that was fantastic from Joe Rogan, and it is platform versus publisher. Thank you.
We all know your topic better than you.
Well, why don't you just do it then, Stu?
Okay. My top story is Tarifageddon.
I don't know.
Oh, Geddon, the thing that I came up with. Right.
I distinctly remember Stu being
coming
the one
up
to
with
create
that. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Your story is agonizing.
It really is agonizing. So why not go there?
That would be your story. Jason?
Something that's agonizing me lately is all these World War II references when talking about like foreign policy and some of those things. And I actually think it's part of the reason why that we're losing credibility in the rest of the world, why we're losing some of our morality, why people just don't trust us anymore.
All right, before we get into the conversation, I want to thank our sponsor, iTarget Pro. I personally love iTarget Pro because they have laser bullets. And there's nothing that's cooler than a laser bullet.
Are you sure it's called a laser bullet?
Yes, we are sure. I got made fun of.
You called that out, didn't you?
Pat
Pat said it was wrong, and I said, no, look at the packaging. It actually says
Pat
laser
said,
bullet.
Sarah calls it a laser bullet. Ha, ha, ha. It's on the package.
My daughter just started shooting. You know Hannah? You know how she's not a gun person at all.
I can't picture her shooting, no.
Right? She did a grouping of about 20 shots, all the size of my palm. I could put my palm over the top of it. She is a great shot. Wow. Something happened in our family recently. We had a bad security scare, and we all kind of, we all live by each other, and we all lived in our house for about a week because we were a little freaked out. And she said, Dad, I want to shoot. And so I got her iTarget Pro because it's so expensive to go out and shoot, especially as a family. Oh my gosh, it's really expensive. This helps you with cost, and it allows you to dry fire at home and have a point to it. It's like game still.
Yeah. You can go to itargetpro.com right now. Get 10% off plus free shipping with promo code NEWS. Glenn, a platform versus a publisher.
Okay, so last night on Joe Rogan, what's his name from Twitter showed up, Jack, who I actually kind of like. I go back and forth. He's either a horrible individual, or he really is trying. He just is so far out of the mainstream, he just doesn't know up from down.
Same thing my wife says about me.
Right, right.
But by the way, I don't trust him as far as I can throw him at all.
No.
You?
No, oh, yeah, true.
What a surprise. What do you think, Stu?
I tend to think that like a lot of these like big social media guys get a kind of a bad rap. I'm a pro business guy usually. Like I'm on that side typically. I don't think I have a fully formed opinion, though, of him. I haven't watched enough. I know you watched his last interview with Joe Rogan, which was multiple hours, because every Joe Rogan show is like, hey, if you have 6 months to kill, watch this interview.
Well, yeah, to preface what you're just about to say, that the very first, Rogan got into big trouble and a lot of criticism the first interview he did with Jack Dorsey, because Joe Rogan was like, hey, what about kicking off Alex Jones and some of those other people?
Oh, I don't know.
Literally said that. Yeah. Like, oh, I don't know. I have no knowledge of that. Like, shut up. Right. Of course you do.
Story, right?
Yes, and it's when all of that pressure is being pointed at your company, you know what happened. You say, hey, who kicked them off?
Or you're not doing your job, right? I mean,
or you're incompetent. Exactly.
Yeah. Right? So that would make a reasonable person not trust what he has to say.
So, and the Rogan criticism was that he didn't push back hard enough on Jack, right? Like
criticism on Rogan?
On Rogan.
Yeah.
He did last night.
So this was him fixing this problem.
Fixing it.
Right? Okay. So how did that go?
It went really well, except, they pushed and made great points. Twitter, if you're a lefty, you probably would accept his excuses or, their spin of things. I didn't, but, that's me. However, what was interesting was the guy who was pushing back was Tim Pool. He used to be with Vice. He is a lefty, I think. He's a liberal. I have a feeling he's more classic liberal, which would make more sense. If he's not a classic liberal, this guy is a superhero of mine because he sounded like a conservative going after him.
The free speech absolutist, which I love.
If you watch any of his YouTube videos, he was trying to interview people on the right, some of the people labeled far right, and they'd be like, yeah, we'll tell you exactly, like a lot of the stuff is taken out of context, we're being misrepresented. When he would go try to talk to Antifa to get their take, they wouldn't talk. He's like, there's something weird about this. Then they started attacking this guy, saying that he was a Nazi. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like more probably aligned with the things that you believe in. I'm a liberal. I think he actually voted for Bernie Sanders.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, he's a superhero then, because he tells it like it is. Last night, he just went after Twitter in a good way. Where he fell apart, and this is why I hesitated to say that for sure he was a classic liberal, is because his idea to fix the problem is to get government regulation and have government regulate these platforms. That is not the answer. We talked on the air today about vaccinations. And, you know, I'm not going to get into the pro-vaccination, anti-vaccination thing.
Yeah, we don't need to for this.
Don't need to. This is about speech. You brought to the table that one of the guys who wrote the universal vaccination code for the United States.
That's being discussed right now.
Correct.
In the committee.
He actually stated
that he thought that the U.S. should have a partnership, a private public partnership with companies like Google, YouTube, Amazon, so that they can, destroy the anti-vaccine empire. I mean, if that's not terrifying, the United States government having a partnership with Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Amazon, Google, I don't know what is.
That's where it's going.
It is where it's going. And that's on my board of the 8 things that we said we were going to watch. That one, when that one happens, there's no stopping it. And it means a cage is being built for all of us. So we're banning books, Amazon on this issue. We're banning books. We're silencing voices on the right. Nobody can seem to get a real answer. Now you have the suggestion that maybe a public-private partnership. No. The answer is they have to choose. Are they a publisher or are they a platform? The Blaze.com and BlazeTV is a publisher. We look and say, who's going to be a part of this? Well, we don't write every show, or we don't look and they don't get permission for every show. We are responsible. If they do something irresponsible, we have to take action. Illegal, all right? If they're doing something illegal. We try to hire the right people because we are responsible, because we are a publisher. A platform, on the other hand, is if the Blaze said, you can post anything, anytime, whatever you want. It could be about movies, it could be about politics, left, right, doesn't matter. This is the place for you to communicate. Then we would be a platform.
What if I said, I'm going to kill this person? Would I be able to say that?
No.
On a platform?
No, because you can't incite violence, and you can't incite anything illegal.
It's not about, the person who posts it, of course it can get in trouble, but the actual platform, unless they were seen to not be taking action, in particularly in some systematic way, could not necessarily be sued.
Held liable.
If we were to post that on Facebook right now, it would go up until someone flagged it and it got taken down, right?
But Facebook would not be held responsible
for that. Where if the Blaze, if they wrote an op-ed, how do I kill X, Y, or Z, would be held responsible.
Right. Because we choose, all right? So what's happened here is the big Google's, Facebook, Twitter, all of these guys, they have platform status, which means they're not held responsible for anything. Then, on top of it, they say, oh, but we have a social responsibility. Well, now you're a publisher. So the point is, if you're a platform, then you are a place to gather and speak, and anything can be said except stuff that's illegal. And you just have to put up with it. That's the way it is. It's free speech. The minute you become a platform or a publisher, and you're also a platform, you're in the perfect position, because you can take action about things and censor things that you don't like. Plus, you're not held responsible for anything that you don't like or are on your side and they're being reckless, this is a place that is the most corrupt capitalism I've ever seen.
And you're talking about a company, too, that gets more free advertising from every single broadcast, including this one, that, they constantly telling you to go to Twitter, go to Twitter, go to Twitter. And, because they get a shield because they are just people posting things, I mean, that's their status. I feel like there's a weird line of where that stops, right? Because I think any private company should have the right to be able to put up and take down whatever they want on their own platform. They just they shouldn't be able to get those protections. Right. Now, I will say, I think there is a difference in the algorithm and the feed as a promotional tool, essentially. It's one thing to be able to take down content, take down Alex Jones's page. It's another thing to not prioritize content, right? Like if you're going on YouTube and you watch you watch something about the moon, and the next one is Alex Jones telling you we never went to the moon. They don't have to recommend Alex Jones. I don't think that's part of their corporate responsibility. That they can choose not to promote or try to lead you to Alex Jones.
They are a private company, yes. So they have that right to be a private company.
Of course, obviously, then conservatives might not use it, or
that's
liberals
the point.
Or conspiracy theorists might say, you're not promoting Alex Jones, I don't want to go to your site, I want to go somewhere else.
That's the point. If they were a publisher, they would become less popular because we would all say, hey, it's Twitter. What do you expect? Of course they're going to silence you. Now we're in this kind of nebulous, well, maybe not. What are the rules? I don't know what the rules. Some guys are getting treated one way, other guys are being fine, So they get all this runway where if they are a publisher and they say, you know what? We only are going to do these things. We're liberals. Then the free market goes out and says, we want to do something else. And it gives room for another platform or another publisher to come out and do the other side, or another platform to come and say, we have total free speech here.
Do you think the free speech is going to save the day, or do you think we're just all doomed?
I
feel weird asking. I mean, Glenn Beck, the obvious answer is that we're all just doomed.
I will tell you that we are so close to the edge right now that if we don't have more people like Poole yesterday that will tell the truth, no matter which side the coin lays on, we are in trouble.
Yes, but it will be people like Poole that push us over the edge. Because really, this started in '96, this collusion with government and these companies. That's where it started. It was over porn, for crying out loud. So the collusion started there. We got to this point to where people like Poole, even though he may be doing this for other reasons, just for free speech, but they'll be like, look, now we have to have them make sure that things are equal.
That's why it is critical that we have the conversation. Platform versus publisher.
All right, back in a minute.
That's
what
the
you
answer.
wish for with the government regulation.
I don't want government.
I know, but a lot of people will push for it because they don't like it.
Jason, you were making a point off air that I wanted to make sure to discuss before we move on.
Yeah, I don't see them. My viewpoint on this would be like, let's just get rid of the law. But when
talking about the porn, the Google, Twitter, Facebook thing we were talking about last break.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the act, but that was the one that was, it started off to, what do we do about porn that's
Right, in the 90s.
invading?
It's like a Decency Act or something.
Yeah, Decency and Communications Act or something like that. But the clause in there was that, okay, we'll give them platform, safeguards, just as long as, it wasn't written in there, it was just assumed that these platforms would be equal and they wouldn't start, having biased opinions, political biases. They assumed it. But I think the way to get rid of a lot of this is just get rid of that law. Just get rid of that. But they never do get rid of laws. In my opinion, they would add on to it.
No, they could say that you still have the platform protection. However, unless it's pornography, and pornography is pretty clear cut, unless it's pornography or violates a law, you cannot censor.
Okay, so if that happens, it doesn't need to happen, and everything's going online, everything's going to be online. If I'm CNN, the executive at CNN, if I'm the executive at the New York Times or whatever, I'm like, wait a minute, we're basically the same thing. They're publishing their own articles themselves and pushing stuff out just like we are. I want that protection as well. So it's not fair for them to have it, and we can't, we have to be perfectly, we can be sued. I mean, what's going on here? Right. Like, it wouldn't be fair. Like, I can see a big, these people coming to a head pretty soon.
And these are the moments as conservatives, as constitutionalists, where it gets hard, right? Like, it was hard after 9/11 to worry about privacy, right? It's hard. And so they passed the Patriot Act, and we have all sorts of problems with that later on. The same thing is here. Like, I think your favorite conservative media, the Blaze gets banned from Twitter. It's possible they could do it.
It's coming.
If they do it to your favorite personality, to your favorite show, it's going to be very tempting to want to run to the government and say, protect us. And we just have to remember that if you do that and they do pass something that makes it so government steps in on private business, this is something that never burns liberals in the end. They're never disappointed there's more federal government control of something. In the end, they always twist it around to the place where it winds up burning conservatives and businesses and it winds up helping the left. This is like, the porn one is a great example. That wasn't a liberal concern. It wasn't like liberals were like, oh, please, to get the porn off the internet. It was conservatives who were saying, we got to make sure this is censored. Now it's burning conservatives years later.
Well, that's why
government control is bad, and that's the principle.
That's why it should go through to the Supreme Court. For instance, this stuff on vaccinations. You can't just take things out of the public sphere. I mean, excuse me, as we talked about earlier today, the Anarchist Cookbook. The guy who wrote the book back in the 60s, how to kill people, how to make bombs, how to make gas, how to kill people. He so regretted it that he spent like 40 years trying to get that taken off the market.
Yeah.
He didn't own the publishing rights. It's still sold today with Amazon. It's still sold at Barnes & Noble. You can still buy it. The guy who wrote it said, take it away. And that was a big court case. Whether that book should be allowed to be published, the Supreme Court ruled, yes, it's freedom of speech. We need to take a case to the court and say freedom of speech. Yeah, we don't need any new laws. No, look, they need to defend the First Amendment.
And I think, look, Amazon has the right to pull any book they want off of their site. If they want to, they can do it. I don't necessarily think it's a good idea. I think usually more voices, more than less. That used to be kind of a it's essentially pulling it off of Amazon is essentially Amazon burning the book, right? Like, and I don't understand why that would be an area we would go into. That being said, it's the government working with these entities that I think is the real problem.
So that's where free speech comes, and it comes in the case, as we've talked about, when the government, New York in particular, the governor has gone to the banking system. Which, if you're the governor of New York and you get them to change for you in New York, you've changed the whole banking system because it's all there in New York. So we don't think you're a bad entity. However, if you're working with gun shops and gun stores and gun manufacturers, we're going to extend your period of being inspected because we think they're pretty shady. So if you don't want any hassles, just drop those people as clients. Well, now you have collusion, government collusion. And it's got to be tested by the courts.
And I will say, too, like, there was a thing that came out, one of the 9,000 allegations against Trump in the last 24 hours, was something about how he stepped in for the CNN merger and tried to block it himself. Like, he told the Department of Justice to go after that. There's no way they're ever going to prove this. But let's just take a crazy line here and say, Donald Trump admits it. He comes out and say, yes, absolutely, I hate CNN. They don't cover me fairly, so I broke up their merger. Is that something that he should get impeached for? Probably yes, right? Like, they're never going to prove it in a million years, so it's nonsensical to talk about. But, like, government should not be especially with the First Amendment, with the press, cannot be in there.
Nope.
And they should have a hands-off approach for all this stuff, I think.
Yeah. I want to move on quickly to the trade war.
Oh, Tariff-ageddon.
Yes.
Yeah, it's my hashtag I started. So Tariff-ageddon is there's a way of looking at trade, and there's two different ways. The free trader would say, okay, well, the trade deficit doesn't mean anything. It's not a negative. In fact, usually when the trade deficit is bad is when your economy is good, and vice versa. Where the Donald Trump sort of approach has been, okay, this is a big problem. It's a kind of an economic scoreboard between us and China, and we need to win on that scoreboard. That's why we're going to raise tariffs. So this is a difficult one to handle because he's implemented the tariffs with the express goal to get rid of the trade deficit, and we have an update on that one. Do we have the headline? Not the quote. Yeah, here it is. The trade deficit now soars to record level. It's the highest in 11 years since the economic collapse. It's up close to $900 billion. I think the total is. It's hurting the economy, generally speaking. But this is just if Trump's worldview is correct, he is failing. Because this is his own standard, is to lower this trade deficit. He's implemented the things he said would lower the trade deficit, and the trade deficit is exploding, which is just bizarre. Here's how the Times tries to capture this, and they're right here. As the trade deficit widens, Mr. Trump's focus on it has resulted in a particular irony. By his own metric, the president is failing to right America's global trading relationships. Yet many of the president's critics don't blame him for this, saying some fluctuations in the trade deficit are largely beyond his control, which is true. It really has nothing to do with him per se. It's a much wider problem than that. However,
not to say his critics are giving him a pass.
Right, because I would say, well, look, you're failing, but in reality, the trade deficit being higher isn't a failure. That's not the way this works, so it's very difficult to handle. But the bottom line is, how long do we have to wait until he just stops this? Until he stops this war with China and this war with all these countries that is hurting our economy, and not to mention hurting his chances to be president in 2021. If this economy...
I think that's how long we have to wait, 2021 or 2024. One of those two. I think he'll go with it all the way. I really do.
Because if he sticks with this, because now he's even failing by his own metrics, not like what every other economist sees as the metric. He's failing by his own metrics. At some point does he say, you know what, I've won this trade war. I screwed China, and they're now wrong, and I fixed all of this, and don't worry about the numbers anymore because now we've got this thing solved. I'm fine with that. He wants to come out and declare himself a winner and get these tariffs over with.
Lead the parade.
Absolutely. Go for it. I don't care.
Jason, last word.
Yeah, and the irony on this, too, is, or which is one of the unintended consequences, is that he's trying to get this deal done with China with a lot more tariffs on the horizon, which means in the cases that I've studied, every time one of these things go down, people rush to buy the goods so that they can get it at the cheaper prices, which inflates the trade deficit. So the trade deficit is going to be rising for those reasons for who knows how long this negotiation keeps going on. So you could get to 2021 and you're looking at trade deficit, what is the deal while they're waiting for the deal to go down with China? It's definitely not going to look good.
Yeah. All right, back in a minute.
I saw a chart today about cost with demand.
Wow, you guys should have heard Stu off air.
Fire.
He was screaming.
Yeah.
There were papers flying around. I think a coffee cup was thrown. That was intense.
His hair was all messed
May
up.
happen in overtime.
It may. That's where I was going.
It may happen
You
in
never know
overtime.
what happens in overtime. Sometimes we get a little nuts. Sometimes we get a little mad.
In the commercial break before the end of the show, in overtime, I usually do a quick line. And we get started.
A line of what?
Oh, nothing. Just
You
know,
with a
prepare.
Trump joke. It's so awkward. It's like my mom telling one.
In all seriousness, we've got this talk going on about platform versus publisher and all of these platforms able to silence conservative voices. Hey, if only there were a network where you could go and you could hear all these conservative voices.
Oh, my
This
gosh.
is really important.
It is.
To be able to preserve the voice, we have to have these platforms ready
Yeah.
for when they try to silence. Join us.
You can go to blazetv.com, use promo code NEWS, and you can get $10 off of your subscription. Join us, and remember, overtime. Stu's going to throw some coffee mugs again, so you got to tune in for that. You look so reserved now. What happened?